In the Dark. Written by Connor Cooper. Part 7. You can change your mind, Spike.
Come on, you know you would beat Iron Man.
Death Battle would beg to differ.
What?
What? Spike shook his head before holding up a comic book in his hands.
Salem, Batman totally fits your whole deal. Why do you like some rich guy in a metal suit?
Spike asked, to which Salem laughed, smiling at his fellow comic compatriot. Counterpoint. Why would you like a rich guy in a bat-themed suit for a knack of recruiting orphans to fight in his war against crime? Salem pointed out before lifting back up his own comic. But I will admit that I love the Hellbat's armor design.
I could have guessed.
Spike laughed slightly, while Milo stuck her tongue out the dragon and returned to look back over Salem's shoulder.
But what about the War Machine?
Spike continued. Which one? Salem with clear amusement.
There's more than one?
Spike gawked as Salem simply nodded.
Fuck me.
Spike stared at his comic when he thought of the question before looking up to Salem.
Do you have...
Before Spike could finish, Salem had out the War Machine comic book. Wait till you get to the volume where Punisher becomes War Machine. The dragon stared at him wide-eyed.
And you have the entire series?
Salem simply nodded, to which Spike could only laugh.
How big is that backpack?
A magician never tells his secrets.
You sound like Trixie.
Who?
Right, you haven't met her yet. You might like her. She's a lot more fun to be around than she was before.
Before?
It's a long story.
Spike replied while flipping a page of his comic. Choosing the end of the conversation, the three decided to read their comics in silence, occasionally discussing the various superheroes, villains, or concepts. This bliss continued for an hour or so until Salem suddenly stood up, catching the other two's attention. Every instinct in the neo-human screamed that something was wrong, to which both Spike and Milo picked up with a startled expression.
What is it?
Asked Spike worriedly as he and Milo slowly stood up from their seats. Salem was unable to answer him as a loud shook the room, almost knocking them from their feet. The explosion was felt all over the castle, echoing across the halls and shattering several windows. Not needing to look at each other and almost in sync, the three dropped their comics, bolted out the door and into the hallway. Milo tossed Salem his helmet, which he caught and placed on his head as they kept running. It sounded like the blast came from within the throne room, Salem told Spike as his helmet finished sealing itself.
How do you know?
Panted the dragon. Pulling his plasma thrower from his pack, Salem set the impossible weapon to its lowest setting. I have really sharp hearing, Salem turned to Spike, assuring the worried dragon. Stay behind me, alright? Rushing forward, Salem vision switched to advanced thermal optics, spotting multiple heat signatures within the throne room. Already his mind raced with different plans of attack, while recalling the entire layout of the throne room to the smallest detail. Shoulder tackling the door, Salem led the charge with Spike close behind him into the ruined royal chamber. Moments ago.
Discord, out of all the things you have ever done, which is a lot, mind you,
Luna hissed, throwing her hand out in the Draconiquus.
This has to be the worst one yet.
The disempowered god of chaos gave a lighthearted chuckle while tapping his two mismatched forefingers together. Well, princess, you need to understand that my intentions were well-intentioned. After all, what better way to get Twilight ready for...
Enough!
Luna roared in the famous royal Canterlot voice, causing Discord to hold his tail out of fear.
Dang, I know I've been gone for a while, but I never heard Luna use the voice like that before.
Sunset whispered to Rainbow Dash.
Same here.
The Daredevil Pegasus nodded in agreement before her eyes looked down to Sunset's cast.
How bad is it?
Not as bad as you would think, Sunset shrugged. But I have to say I missed healing magic. She held her free hand over her cast-covered arm, while Luna continued chewing out Discord.
And not to mention the fact you masked yourself as Grogar, of all ponies.
Actually, he's a goat, Discord hesitantly corrected. Before Luna could continue her tirade against Discord, Justice stopped her before offering the Draconiquus her own scolding.
Discord, you might as well believe your intentions as well-intentioned, but you have made a grave mistake in uniting those three together. Who knows, the destruction of Sombra would have joined them.
Discord gave a small, carefree smile.
Well,
I guess we'll never know since Twilight and her friends have already beaten dear Sombra.
We didn't.
Verity corrected. This caused Discord to turn towards the white-coated unicorn. Pardon?
Yeah. This big guy named Salem beat him. Or her. After turning Sombra into a mare.
Rainbow Dash informed the powerless Chaos God, who was currently trying to process this new information. Wait, Salem, did I miss something big and chaotic here? Before Discord could have his answer, the large stained glass window above the two thrones was blasted apart by a magical energy explosion, causing the group to duck for cover. Slowly recovering from the shock of the blast, the group could only watch in complete horror as three familiar faces dropped into the trashed throne room. Oh, it's good to be back, T-Rex laughed. Twilight was the first to act and summon a massive dome shield around her and her friends, to which Queen Chrysalis laughed at the youngest prince's futile resistance.
You think your pathetic shield could stop us?
Chrysalis mocked while Cozy Glow and T-Rex flanked her sides as Grogar's bell hovered above them.
The pillars are defeated. Your school is abandoned. Face it, Twilight. You've already lost.
Standing ready to hold her ground, Twilight was about to retort against the former changeling queen when the throne room's side doors burst open, revealing two figures rushing forward. Discord recognized his O&O companion Spike, but was unfamiliar with the taller, dark, and heavily armored figure standing next to the little dragon.
Friend of yours?
The dark figure asked Spike, pointing to the trio of villains, to which the dragon shook his head.
Not really, no.
The figure nodded in acknowledgement.
Get behind something.
He, Discord assumes is a male due to his voice, orders Spike as he readies what Discord assumes to be a weapon.
This could get messy.
Turning back to the three threats in front of him, Salem watched his HUD begin to scan the three standing in front of him before the advanced systems within his helmet zoomed in on the floating bell behind them.
Fuck me, these readings are insane. What is that?
Well, well. Who is this? A new friend of yours, Twilight?
T-Rex smirked, raising his fist before popping his knuckles.
And your pet dragon, too. This should be fun.
Raising his plasma thrower, Salem takes aim at the trio.
Stand down, Big Red. You will not like the alternative,
threatened Salem. T-Rex laughed mockingly.
Oh, I like this one.
The more the merrier.
Chrysalis chuckled before sending a toxic wave that shattered Twilight's shield. Salem grabbed Spike, using his own body to shield the dragon from the attack. Dazed and still recovering from Chrysalis' magic wave, Salem was grabbed by the head by T-Rex and slammed into the closest pillars, further disorienting the Chimera, even as he raised his weapon. Unamused, the giant centaur decided to end his misery, and grabbed Salem by his chest armor and tossed him out the broken window.
Salem!
Pinkie Pie cried, unable to move while she and the others watched as the Chimera fell from their sight. Just as they thought they lost their new friend as he tumbled out the window, Salem in his quick reflex grabbed a ledge, narrowly missing. Slightly dazed at what had happened, Salem silently cursed at having let his guard down, and placed his weapon back onto his back until looking up at Milo, who was standing at the window frame, reaching out for him. Salem took her hand before being pulled back up through the shattered stained glass window. As he carefully crept back into the throne room, Salem noticed that the three villains close by, thankfully preoccupied in their monologue to notice him. He noticed Spike, who was peeking out from behind a pillar. The little dragon saw him from his hiding spot and waved at him, to which Salem lowered his hand down in an attempt to have him stay out of sight. Silently, Salem crawled out of the window frame and into some rubble below to soften his landing, carefully shimming his way down.
Pity. I was actually wondering if he was worth a challenge. This only proves my point. Friendship can only do so much, Twilight. There is one thing far more powerful than your precious friendship.
Chrysalis smiled while grabbing the paralyzing pony by the neck.
Care to know what it is? Fear.
As they laughed, none took notice of Salem, who dropped down behind them. Quickly he moved forward, leaping up into the air, and drop-kicked Chrysalis in the face with the heels of his boots. As the changeling dropped Twilight, Salem quickly caught the purple pony before turning back to the trio. Spike rushed over by Salem's side with his fist raised.
What's the plan?
Spike asked, to which Salem gently placed the paralyzed alicorn into the dragon's arms.
Protect the others. We got this.
We?
Salem held a finger to his mouth, to which Spike blinked before realizing what he meant and grinned. All the while, Chrysalis pushed herself off the ground, holding her cheek.
You dare strike me!
You kinda had it coming. Assaulting the leading body of this government as well as several recognized officials. I mean, seriously. I don't even know what these elements of whatever is, and even I'm not stupid enough to do this shit you're trying to pull.
Salem pointed out, aiming his plasma-based weapon at the three.
Oh, this is going to be fun.
Cozy Glow smiled with malicious intent in her eyes.
No, he's mine.
Chrysalis hissed and fired a burst of poison magic, but was repelled by Salem's advanced armor. Going for his own attack, he took aim and pulled the trigger, releasing red plasma flame. Even as the lowest setting, the flame still melted the stone floor in seconds. The Queen summoned a shield before her, while Cozy took cover behind Tyrek, who ripped up a large piece of the floor to protect himself. While the plasma-based impossibility dispersed, Salem swung forward, his fist clenched, and easily shattering the magical shield the changeling had protecting her. Hitting her in the other cheek this time, he sent her flying into the ruined solar throne. In the same instant, the Chimera rushed to Tyrek's makeshift shield. Using said shield as a ramp, the Chimera flipped it over before throwing 3 small ball-shaped devices at the tube behind the stone cover. Before they hit the ground, the orbs exploded into a thick yellow foam, enveloping the small Philian centaur before quickly hardening. Landing on his feet and taking advantage of the reprieve, Salem activated the cooling system on his weapon. As his gun vented off, the temporary containment foam did not hold Tyrek for long as he broke free with a roar, throwing his massive fist at Salem. Spotting this, Salem jumped, narrowly dodging the attack before grabbing the horn of the beast and pointing his weapon at the ancient's face.
You wouldn't dare!
Snarled Tyrek. Without another word, Salem fired a burst of plasma point blank at the giant's face, causing Tyrek to roar in pain as he backhanded him. This time expecting a hit, Salem braced himself to a controlled landing as the Chimera's boots threw sparks as it scraped against the stone floor. Cozy Glow, having finally broken free, fired a hail of red spike spells at Salem, who weaved through each spike, throwing another foam bomb at the kid, which rose pink-colored pony gingerly dodged.
You missed.
Cozy laughed, pointing at him. Salem clutched his hand to remote, activating the capture device as it detonated behind her, covering the alicorn with foam, leaving only her face exposed. Sliding across the floor, Cozy stopped at Salem's feet, staring up at his red-eyed faceplate, worried that he was going to hurt her. Salem slightly set his foot on top of Cozy's foam-covered head and growled,
Stay out of the way, kid.
and kicked the foam-colored filly backwards, sliding to a corner to deal with the ladder. Turning his attention to Tyrek, Salem watched the large centaur's heavily burnt face glare furiously at him as his wounds regenerated due to his magic.
I'm going to melt you inside your armor!
Tyrek roared, summoning his dark magic, focusing between his horns and firing a beam of concentrated energy at him. Salem ran across the throne room, holstering the energy weapon in his pack as his mind went to overdrive, thinking of any way to beat this giant. He could use his freeze ray like he did in the Crystal Empire, but energy weapons didn't seem to have a real lasting effect when he fought Sombra, so he had to think outside the box.
Screw it.
Closing in on Tyrek, Salem threw him a mean right hook, followed by another to his left, completely stunning Tyrek as he proceeded to use a mixed style of martial arts to overwhelm the giant. Tyrek couldn't see how fast he was being punched, not realizing that most of his hits weren't from Salem. Rather, it seemed like there was a second pair of fists hitting him. Attacking a perfect sync, Milo and Salem finished Tyrek with one final combined uppercut, sending him flying at least 20 feet into the air before the giant's body came crashing down. Chuckling, Salem had out his fist when Milo gave him a side fist bump, resembling something from an anime.
Whoa, go Salem.
Spike cheered while the others began to feel the effects of Chrysalis' magic slowly fade away. Salem turned to them with a thumbs up, unknowingly dropping his guard, which allowed Chrysalis to teleport and pick the Chimera up by the neck. Before he could reach for his weapon, his wrist was grabbed by now recovered Tyrek, while Cozy Glow readied another spell aiming right at Salem's head.
I don't know about you two, but this one's getting on my nerves.
Chrysalis hissed while Tyrek nodded.
Finally, we agree on something.
Here, here.
Salem stared at them, noticing Milo slowly begin to creep up on Chrysalis, drawing a knife, attempting to free her partner with a few well-placed strikes. The former human, however, stops her with a small hand signal. Realizing a brewing plan, the impossible lady moved back and slightly with a smile on her bone-like face.
I couldn't help but overhear you guys say something about fear being more powerful than friendship. Did I hear that right?
Salem asked while he was still being restrained, causing Chrysalis to smile at him.
That's right. Salem, was it? Are you afraid right now?
The Queen mocked with a sneer.
Not really, no. Coming from a guy who's lived with fear for the past few years is something you've gotta know.
Salem choked slightly while he began to feel the Queen's grip go tighter on his throat.
Oh? And what is that?
Chrysalis asked.
Two can play that game, and I can play it better.
Before the trio could react, Salem flicked his wrist where a device from his armored sleeve gave off a blinding white flash.
Ah, my eyes!
Tyrek hissed gently, stroking his eyelids, trying to soothe the pain in his eyes.
Damn, another dirty trick.
Chrysalis opened her eyes with a clawed hand. She ready to strike out at Salem, but froze upon noticing he wasn't there.
What? Hey, where are we?
Cozy Glow asked, finally being able to see, causing Chrysalis and Tyrek to notice they were no longer in the throne room.
What is this?
Tyrek snarled, turning to concrete walls of the room they seemingly were teleported in.
Wait, where's the bell?
Cozy cried, noticing that their only trump card was missing, causing the three to look around the room. The giant of the three turned to a metal door across the room and punched it before roaring out.
You think this place can hold us, boy? We may not have the bell, but we still have magic of Grogar coursing through our veins.
To his shock, his massive fist didn't even dent the strange metal door.
What the?
The other two noticed this and were just as hooked as Tyrek looking at the metal door before something grabbed their attention. Crying. Someone was crying right behind them. Turning around, the three saw it. Huddling in a corner across the room sat some creature crying. Both the creature and the crying were unnerving. The crying sounded that of a grown stallion having something so terrible happen to him that he broke down into a mess. And the appearance of the creature unsettled the trio as a chill ran down their spines. Pale gray skin covered the extremely malnourished body of a creature with the long limbs that had to be 3 times too big for its torso. They stared at it for a moment before Tyrek chuckled at it, turning his full-on boast of laughter.
I understand now.
Tyrek laughed.
We ought to be afraid of what? This creature? This pathetic thing is nothing more than a broken mess.
Tyrek walked over to the creature and grabbed the pale shoulder of the thing before pulling it back to get a better look at it. The creature's face looked up at him. Its face. It was just as unnerving as the rest of it. But Tyrek felt something as he stared into the pale eyes of that freak. At that moment, as he laid eyes on the creature's face, the monster jerked forward before grabbing his face, attempting to conceal it. Tyrek stepped back as the thing slowly rose up on his unnatural legs. The trio watched helplessly as the creature stood to its full height, towering higher than even Tyrek. Suddenly, it began to shake its head, still holding its face, while it slowly curled open its mouth to let out a horrible noise. Backing against the door, the three stared at the creature while the noise grew and grew. The creature's head shook more violently while the noise kept growing louder and faster. Realizing the terrifying predicament they found themselves in, the three rushed to the door, pounding and pleading for anyone to open it.
For the love of gods, open this door!
Tyrek screamed, his voice booming over the others. All was in vain as the creature suddenly stopped before giving an ungodly scream and rushed at them with its bloodstained claws wide open and jaw entirely unhinged. Then, silence. Meanwhile, Salem stood over the trio who was now shaking in pure terror while their eyes darted wildly with their minds currently experiencing the effects of a Foundation interrogation device. Looking at the small neuralizer-like device, Salem shivered at the memories of the device when he accidentally used it on himself and was given the Plague Doctor experience. He was half tempted to use the same Plague Doctor on them, but seeing how one of them was a child, he decided to just scare the shit out of them, a shy guy.
Damn, dude. What was that?
Spike asked, walking over to Solar Guard, finally able to find his way into the throne room.
I don't have Scarecrow's fear toxin, but I did give them a taste of their own medicine.
Salem answered.
What do you... Oh.
Don't worry, it won't last long. Probably 10 minutes tops. But for them, it'll be a few seconds.
The Chimera stated, before pointing to the strange bell before them.
What is this thing?
Notice the Chimera attempting to reach for the relic. Luna struggled towards him as she cried out.
Salem, don't!
Luna expected the worst to happen to the former human. Agony, pain, cosmic insanity, something of the like. Which is why it came to a surprise to watch Salem pick the dark relic completely unfazed and unharmed as its defensive curse to suck the living magic out of those it wasn't bound to.
What?
Looking at him confused, the group watched while Salem raised up the bell, tapping it with his armored finger while inspecting the dark relic. Luna sat down, her body still slightly numb from Crystal's spell.
That is strange.
Luna looked down in thought while Discord tried to stumble his way towards Salem.
Hello there, my boy. Can I ask for a quick favor, if you would?
Discord spoke, trying to get the dark armored savior's attention.
Discord, sit down. You're gonna get yourself hurt.
Spike warned, rushing over to the Chaos God.
Nonsense. I'm just fine.
That's funny. I taste gold for some reason. The Chaos being slurred before passing out in front of the two. Spike panicked for his friend's well-being, compelling Salem to rush over to help.
Sister.
Cecily noticed the look on Luna. She had only seen such a look on many times of her young sibling before.
Lulu, what is it? Tia, it is impossible that...
Luna shook her head.
No, forget it. Luna, what is it? It's nothing. Perhaps Salem's armor protected him from the bell's curse.
Taking one of her reactions, Celestia nodded before looking to Luna.
That could be so. What was the other thought you had? Nothing, Tia. I'm just overthinking things from the adrenaline rush.
Luna answered. Celestia nodded, leaving the Night Princess to wonder. There we go. Another fantastic chapter and a big boss fight. Hopefully the editing was good on this one, because I know I'm going to be spending some time doing it. That aside, however, I would like to thank my wonderful Patreons. Thank you my Tier 1 Patreons Squall, Windfeather, Rainflicker, Starlight Blaze, Dreamless Portal, Nine Tiny Equine, and Stewhex. My Tier 2 Patreons Chase Lemaster, Sword Brother and Mordred, Solus, RD Bryant, Captain Blueshadow, HKH4 aka Texture, and the Animated Ghost. And of course a large thank you to Silent Titan. I appreciate you guys so much, and I hope you've enjoyed. This has been Firehearth. Have a wonderful day.